Ground this aircraft. Immediately. The flight attendants stopped moving. Passengers looked up from their phones. Even the crying baby in row 12 seemed to pause. Because when a man says those words with that kind of authority, something big is about to happen. Paige Lawson, the pilot, appeared from the cockpit door. Her face was red, her jaw tight. She looked like she'd just swallowed a lemon whole. "Sir, you can't just—" "I already did," Marcus said, lowering his phone. His dark eyes locked onto hers. "This plane isn't going anywhere until we have a conversation. And trust me, Captain Lawson, you're not going to like how this conversation ends." The oxygen seemed to get sucked right out of the cabin. You could hear a pin drop. Actually, you could probably hear an ant sneeze. A woman in row 8 whispered to her husband, "Oh my God, is this really happening?" It was. And it was about to get a whole lot worse. 5 minutes earlier, everything had seemed normal. Well, as normal as air travel gets in America these days. Overpriced snacks, cramped seats, and that weird recycled air that makes everything taste like cardboard. But what happened to Marcus Dalton in those 5 minutes before he grounded that plane? What could make a successful man, a man who'd built a billion-dollar company from nothing, stop an entire aircraft full of people? Let me take you back to the beginning of this story. Back to that morning at Chicago O'Hare International Airport, where Marcus Dalton was just trying to get home to Seattle after a long business trip. Marcus had been awake since 4 a.m. His eyes felt like sandpaper, and his back ached from 3 days of conference room chairs that cost more than most people's cars but somehow still felt like sitting on rocks. He rolled his carry-on through Terminal 3, past the Starbucks with its line stretching halfway to Wisconsin, past the Hudson News where a paperback cost enough to fund a small country. He just wanted to get to his gate, board his first-class seat, and sleep for the next 3 hours. Marcus wasn't the type to brag about flying first class. He'd grown up in Detroit, in a neighborhood where luxury meant the corner store actually had milk that wasn't expired. His mama had worked 2 jobs, cleaning office buildings at night, serving lunch at a diner during the day. She'd taught him that hard work was the only currency that mattered. And Marcus had worked hard. Real hard. He'd put himself through Michigan State, started a tech company in his garage, and spent 15 years turning it into Dalton Technologies, one of the biggest cybersecurity firms in the country. He had 8,000 employees across 12 states. His company protected the data of hospitals, banks, and even government agencies. But you wouldn't know any of that by looking at him. Marcus dressed simple, jeans, a navy blue hoodie, clean white sneakers. No flashy watch. No designer labels. His mama used to say, "Baby, it's not about what you wear. It's about what you do." He reached gate B-17 with 20 minutes to spare. The gate agent, a young guy named Tyler with gelled hair and a smile that looked painted on, was already boarding. "Group 1, we're ready for you," Tyler announced through the microphone, his voice chirpy like a morning radio DJ. Marcus joined the small line of first-class passengers. There were maybe 6 people ahead of him, a businessman in a wrinkled suit yelling into his phone about quarterly reports, an elderly couple holding hands, a woman in yoga pants carrying what looked like a $3,000 purse. He handed Tyler his boarding pass and ID. Tyler scanned the pass. His computer beeped. He looked at the screen. Then he looked at Marcus. Then back at the screen. The smile disappeared. "Sir, there's been a mistake," Tyler said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Marcus frowned. "What kind of mistake?" "Your seat has been reassigned." Tyler wasn't making eye contact anymore. He was staring at his computer like it might explode. "Reassigned? I booked this seat 3 weeks ago." "I understand, sir, but sometimes the system makes changes, and—" "The system?" Marcus kept his voice level. He'd dealt with enough corporate nonsense to know when someone was reading from a script. "Or a person." Tyler's face went pale. "Sir, I'm just following. Can I speak to your supervisor?" "That won't be necessary." A new voice cut in, sharp and cold as a February wind in Chicago. A woman stepped up beside Tyler. Her name tag read, Patricia Vance, Gate Supervisor. She was maybe 50, with blonde hair pulled back so tight it looked painful and lipstick the color of a stop sign. "Mr." She glanced at his boarding pass. "Dalton, is it?" Your seat has been moved to accommodate a frequent flyer with higher status." Marcus felt something flicker in his chest. Not anger. Not yet. Just awareness. The kind of awareness that comes from living in America as a black man for 42 years. "I have the highest status your airline offers," Marcus said calmly. "I fly 200,000 miles a year with you folks. I've been Platinum Elite for 6 years straight." Patricia's smile was thinner than paper. Nevertheless, adjustments were made. "You'll be in seat 24C. It's a very comfortable economy seat, right by the wing." The businessman behind Marcus muttered something that sounded like, "Come on, man," but probably wasn't supportive. "I paid for first class," Marcus said, his voice still calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that makes smart people nervous. "I'd like the seat I paid for." "Sir, the plane is full. If you continue to cause a disruption, I'll have no choice but to remove you from this flight entirely." There it was. The threat. Quick as a snake strike. Marcus looked at Patricia. Really looked at her. At the set of her jaw. At the way her eyes had gone cold and hard. At the way Tyler had taken a small step back, like he wanted nothing to do with what was happening. The elderly couple had already boarded. The yoga pants woman was pretending to check her phone, but Marcus could see her eyes flicking up every few seconds. The businessman had stopped yelling into his phone and was watching with the kind of interest people show at car accidents. "Who's in my seat now?" Marcus asked. "That's confidential passenger information." "Who is in the seat?" Patricia's nostrils flared. "Mr. Dalton, you need to board now or I'll board." Marcus took his boarding pass back. His hand didn't shake. His voice didn't rise. "But this isn't over." He walked down the jetway, his heart pounding in his ears. Behind him, he heard Patricia say to Tyler, "Some people just don't know their place." She didn't whisper it. She didn't even try. When Marcus stepped onto the plane, he saw the flight attendants right away. 2 women, one older with gray hair in a tight bun, one younger with a perky ponytail. Their name tags read Dorothy and Shannon. "Welcome aboard," Shannon said brightly. Then she saw where he was headed, past the first-class cabin, and her smile flickered. "Oh, are you?" 24C, Marcus said. He walked past first class. Past the spacious leather seats with the extra legroom and the warm towels and the pre-flight champagne. He saw an older white man in seat 3A, Marcus's seat, already reclined, eyes closed, looking peaceful as Sunday morning. Marcus kept walking. Row 24 was exactly where you'd expect. Middle seat. Between a teenager with headphones blasting music so loud Marcus could hear the bass, and a large man who'd already claimed both armrests like he'd conquered a small country. Marcus wedged himself in. His knees hit the seat in front of him. The teenager didn't even glance up. The large man grunted but didn't move an inch. The overhead bin was full. Marcus had to put his carry-on 3 rows back. He sat down and pulled out his phone. First, he opened his airline app. Platinum Elite status stared back at him. 287,000 miles flown this year alone. He took a screenshot. Then he went to his messages and pulled up a contact, Gerald Hutchins, board member. Gerald was on the board of directors for the airline. They'd met at a charity golf tournament 2 years ago, and they'd stayed in touch. Good guy. Honest. The kind of person who actually returned calls. Marcus typed, "Gerald, we need to talk. I'm on flight 447 to Seattle. Something happened that you need to know about." He hit send. Then he opened his email and found the booking confirmation for his first-class seat. He'd paid $1,847 for it. He took another screenshot. The captain's voice came over the intercom. A woman's voice. Smooth. Professional. The kind of voice that makes you think everything's under control. "Good morning, folks. This is Captain Paige Lawson speaking. Welcome aboard Flight 447 with service to Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. We're currently second in line for takeoff, so we should be wheels up in about 5 minutes. Flight time today is 3 hours and 10 minutes. Marcus barely heard her. His phone buzzed. Gerald had texted back. What's wrong? Are you okay? Marcus's fingers moved fast. They bumped me from first class. Gave my seat to someone else. I'm Platinum Elite, Gerald. I've been loyal to this airline for years. The gate supervisor threatened to remove me from the flight when I questioned it. 3 dots appeared. Gerald was typing. The plane started moving, backing away from the gate. Shannon, the flight attendant with the ponytail, walked down the aisle checking seat belts. When she got to row 24, she smiled at Marcus, but it was different from the smile she'd given the first-class passengers. Tighter. Less warm. Sir, I need you to put your phone in airplane mode. Just finishing something, Marcus said. Sir. Gerald's response came through. This is unacceptable. Give me 5 minutes. I'm calling the airline CEO right now. Do not let that plane take off. Marcus looked up at Shannon. I need to make a phone call. Sir, we're taxiing. All phones need to be. This plane needs to return to the gate. Shannon's smile vanished completely. Excuse me. I need to speak to the captain. Right now. The teenager with the headphones finally looked up. The large man shifted, suddenly interested. Sir, that's not possible. If you're having an emergency. Get me the captain, Marcus said. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the cabin noise like a knife. Or I promise you, everyone on this plane is going to regret it. Shannon's face went white. She hurried toward the front of the plane. The large man next to Marcus whispered, Dude, you can't just. Marcus ignored him. He unbuckled his seat belt and stood up. Sir. Shannon called from the front of the plane. Sir, you need to sit down. But Marcus was already walking up the aisle. Past row 20. Past row 15. Past row 10. People were staring now. Some looked scared. Some looked angry. A woman pulled her child closer. Marcus reached first class. The man in his seat, in 3A, opened his eyes. He looked confused, then annoyed. Can I help you? That's my seat, Marcus said quietly. I think there's been a... The cockpit door opened. Paige Lawson stepped out. She was maybe 45, with short brown hair and sharp blue eyes that had probably seen everything in her 20-year career. She looked at Marcus, then at Shannon, then back at Marcus. Sir, I'm going to need you to return to your seat immediately. I need you to return this plane to the gate. Paige's jaw tightened. That's not happening. Now sit down, or I'll have security meet us in Seattle. Marcus pulled out his phone. His hands were steady. Completely steady. He pressed dial on Gerald's contact. It rang once. Gerald picked up. Marcus, I've got Jonathan Reeves on 3-way. He's the CEO. He wants to. Put him on speaker, Marcus said. Loud enough for everyone in first class to hear. Paige's eyes went wide. Marcus. A new voice came through the phone. Older. Gravelly. This is Jonathan Reeves. I understand there's been an incident. Mr. Reeves, my name is Marcus Dalton. I'm the CEO of Dalton Technologies. I've been a Platinum Elite member of your airline for 6 years. This morning, I was removed from the first-class seat I paid for and threatened with removal from the flight when I questioned why. I'm currently standing in the aisle of Flight 447 because the staff has refused to address the situation properly. Silence on the other end. Then, give me the flight number again. 447, Chicago to Seattle. Hold on. Marcus could hear keyboard clicking. Fast, urgent clicking. Paige stepped closer. Sir, I don't know who you think you are, but... Captain Lawson, is it? Jonathan Reeves's voice came through the phone, cold as ice. This is your CEO speaking. Why is one of our Platinum Elite passengers standing in your aisle instead of sitting in the first-class seat he paid for? Paige's face went from pink to red to white in about 3 seconds. I don't have all the details, sir. The gate supervisor. I'm looking at the booking right now, Jonathan interrupted. Mr. Dalton booked seat 3A 3 weeks ago. I'm also seeing that his seat was reassigned at the gate 40 minutes ago. By Patricia Vance. A pause. The same Patricia Vance who has 17 complaints filed against her for similar incidents. Shannon had backed up against the bathroom door. The man in seat 3A was trying to make himself invisible. Dorothy, the older flight attendant, appeared from the galley. She looked at the scene, and understanding dawned on her face. The kind of understanding that comes from seeing the same ugly thing happen too many times. Marcus kept his voice level. "Mr. Reeves, I want you to understand something. I don't usually make a fuss. I mind my business. But I'm tired. I'm tired of working twice as hard to get half as far. I'm tired of being treated like I don't belong in spaces I've earned the right to be in. I'm tired of watching people make decisions about me based on what they see instead of who I am." "Mr. Dalton, I'm not finished." Marcus looked directly at Paige. "I want to know why this happened. I want to know who made the decision to give my seat away. And I want to know what you're going to do about it." The entire first-class cabin was frozen. Even the plane seemed to be holding its breath. Jonathan Reeves's voice came through, crystal clear. "Captain Lawson, return to the gate immediately. This aircraft is not taking off until we resolve this." Paige opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Sir, we're already taxiing. We're fourth in line for ground this plane now." And that's when Marcus Dalton said the words that would change everything. "Ground this aircraft. Immediately." If you think what happened to Marcus was wrong, hit that subscribe button right now. Only people who think discrimination is okay would scroll past this story. Don't be that person. And drop a comment telling me, have you ever been treated unfairly because of how you look? Let's talk about it. The plane jerked to a stop. Marcus felt it in his knees. That sudden shift from motion to stillness. Like the whole aircraft had taken a sharp breath and held it. Captain Paige Lawson stood there, phone pressed to her ear, her face doing something between a grimace and a smile. The kind of expression people make when they're trying to act professional but really want to scream. "Yes, sir," she said into her phone. "Returning to the gate now." She hung up and looked at Marcus. For a second, just a flash, he saw something in her eyes. Was it anger? Fear? Regret? He couldn't tell. But whatever it was, it disappeared fast. "Ladies and gentlemen," Paige announced, her voice tight as a guitar string, "we're experiencing a minor operational issue. We'll be returning to the gate momentarily. We apologize for the inconvenience." The cabin erupted. "Are you kidding me? I have a connection to make. This is ridiculous." A businessman in row 2 slammed his laptop shut. "What kind of operation are you people running here?" The man in seat 3A, Marcus's seat, looked like he wanted to melt into the leather. He kept glancing at Marcus, then away, then back again. Like watching a tennis match, but nobody was winning. Shannon, the flight attendant, moved quickly down the aisle, trying to calm people down. "We'll have you back in the air as soon as possible." "I'm so sorry for..." "Sorry." A woman in row 6 stood up. "I'm going to miss my daughter's wedding." The teenager next to Marcus's old seat in row 24 had his phone out, recording everything. Marcus could see the kid's screen. He was already posting to TikTok. The caption read, "Plane drama face screaming in fear CEO stops flight." Great. Just great. The plane started moving backward. Slowly. Like it was ashamed of itself. Marcus stood there in the aisle, phone still in his hand. Gerald's voice came through. "Marcus, you still there?" "I'm here. Jonathan wants me to tell you, this is going to be handled properly. He's already on the phone with HR and legal." "Good." Marcus's voice was steady, but inside, his heart was hammering. He'd just stopped a plane. An actual plane. With 200 people on it. People who were now staring at him like he'd grown a second head. Dorothy, the older flight attendant, approached him carefully. Like you'd approach a stray dog, not sure if it would bite or run. "Sir," she said softly, "would you like to sit down while we return to the gate?" Marcus looked at her. Really looked at her. She had kind eyes. Tired eyes. The kind of eyes that had seen too much and said too little. "I'll stand," he said quietly. She nodded and stepped back. The plane bumped along the taxiway. Through the windows, Marcus could see other planes lined up, ready for takeoff. Their flight was cutting across, holding everyone up. He felt a twinge of guilt, but only a twinge. This wasn't his fault. He didn't ask for this. Page disappeared back into the cockpit. The door closed with a definitive click. 3 minutes later, the plane came to a stop at the gate. The jetway extended like a mechanical snake, connecting with the door. The cabin was buzzing now. Everyone was talking at once. What's happening? Why are we back? Did someone say bomb? No, Karen, nobody said bomb. The main cabin door opened, and in walked a small army. First came Patricia Vance, the gate supervisor. Her face was red as a fire truck. Behind her were 2 police officers, a tall black man with gray at his temples and a shorter white woman with her hand resting on her belt. Behind them came another man in a suit that probably cost more than the average person's monthly rent. His name tag read, Dennis Porter, Station Manager. And behind all of them, looking like she'd rather be literally anywhere else, was Tyler, the gate agent who'd started this whole mess. Patricia's eyes locked onto Marcus immediately. If looks could kill, he'd be a pile of ash on the floor. Him, she said, pointing at Marcus like he was a wanted criminal. He's the one causing the disturbance. The taller police officer, his name tag read Officer Daniels, stepped forward. His face was calm. Professional. Sir, I'm going to need you to come with us. Marcus didn't move. Am I under arrest? No, sir. We just need to. Then I'm not going anywhere until someone explains why I was removed from the seat I paid for. Dennis Porter stepped forward, smoothing his tie. He had the look of a man who'd just been woken up from a nap and told his house was on fire. Mr. Dalton, if we could just step off the aircraft and discuss this. We can discuss it right here. Marcus held up his phone. Mr. Reeves, are you still on the line? I'm here, Marcus. Jonathan Reeves's voice came through the phone speaker, loud and clear. And I'd like to know the same thing. Dennis, Patricia, why was Mr. Dalton's seat reassigned? Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Dennis looked at her, then at Marcus, then at the phone like it might bite him. Sir, Dennis said carefully, there seems to have been a miscommunication at the gate. A miscommunication. Marcus's voice was flat. Is that what we're calling it? The man in seat 3A suddenly stood up. Look, I don't know what's going on, but they told me this seat was available because of an upgrade. Mr. Peterson, Patricia interrupted quickly, you don't have to explain. Richard Peterson, Marcus said slowly. He recognized the name now. You're on the board of Hendricks Financial, aren't you? The man, Peterson, nodded. I am, but I don't see what. Did you ask for my seat specifically? Or did someone offer it to you? Peterson shifted uncomfortably. The whole plane was watching now. Even the people in the back rows were craning their necks to see. The gate agent said there was a first-class seat available due to a computer error. I didn't know someone had been bumped. Marcus looked at Patricia. A computer error. She lifted her chin. Our system automatically prioritizes passengers based on various factors. I'm Platinum Elite, Marcus cut her off. There's no one in your system with higher priority than me on this flight. So either your computer is broken, or someone manually changed my seat. Which is it? Silence. The kind of silence that's so heavy you can feel it pressing down on your shoulders. Officer Daniels cleared his throat. Ma'am, did you manually change this passenger's seat assignment? Patricia's face went through several shades of red. I made a judgment call based on. Based on what? Marcus asked. Based on the fact that you didn't think I belonged in first class? Based on the fact that you saw a black man in a hoodie and assumed he must have made a mistake? Based on the fact that Richard Peterson here is on the board of a financial firm and I'm. He paused. What did you assume I was, Patricia? I didn't assume anything. Patricia's voice went shrill. I was simply trying to provide excellent customer service to him. Marcus pointed at Peterson. Not to me. Even though I've flown 287,000 miles with this airline this year. Even though I've been loyal for 6 years. Even though I paid for that seat. Dorothy, the flight attendant, spoke up quietly. Patricia, you told me earlier that seat 3A needed to be saved for a VIP passenger. Patricia whipped around. That's not. I never. You did. Dorothy's voice was soft but firm. Right before boarding. You said, and I quote, "We need to take care of the real first-class passengers." The temperature in the cabin seemed to drop 10 degrees. Dennis Porter closed his eyes. Dear God. Peterson sank back into his seat, looking horrified. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know anyone was bumped for me. Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. A text from Gerald. Jonathan is livid. Patricia Vance is done. So is anyone who helped her. Jonathan Reeves's voice came through the speaker again. Patricia, you're suspended effective immediately. Dennis, get her off that plane and escort her to HR. Officer, please make sure she leaves the premises. Patricia's face went white. You can't. I've worked here for 18 years. And in those 18 years, Jonathan continued, his voice like ice, how many other passengers did you treat this way? How many other people did you look at and decide they didn't deserve the service they paid for? Patricia opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Officer Daniels, Jonathan said, please escort Ms. Vance out. The tall officer nodded. Ma'am, let's go. Patricia looked around the cabin, at the passengers watching her, at Tyler who was staring at his shoes, at Dennis who wouldn't meet her eyes. Then she looked at Marcus. This isn't fair, she whispered. Marcus met her gaze. No, it's not. But not for the reason you think. Officer Daniels gently took Patricia's elbow. She jerked away from him, turned on her heel, and marched off the plane. Her head was high, but her hands were shaking. The cabin remained dead quiet. Dennis Porter cleared his throat. Mr. Dalton, on behalf of the airline, I sincerely apologize. Your seat will be restored immediately, and we'd like to offer you. I don't want an apology, Marcus said. I want answers. How many other people has Patricia done this to? How many complaints were filed against her? Dennis shifted uncomfortably. I don't have those numbers. 17, Jonathan's voice came through. I'm looking at her file right now. 17 formal complaints in the last 3 years. All of them, involve passengers of color being downgraded or removed from their seats. The passengers gasped. Someone in the back yelled, What the hell? And yet she still worked here, Marcus said quietly. Still had the power to do this to people. That ends today, Jonathan said. Marcus, I promise you, we're going to review every single case. Anyone who was wronged will be compensated. This behavior will not be tolerated. Marcus nodded slowly. He felt tired. So tired. Like he'd just run a marathon in concrete shoes. Peterson stood up from seat 3A. Mr. Dalton, this is your seat. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. It's not your fault, Marcus said. And he meant it. Peterson hadn't asked for any of this. Peterson grabbed his bag and moved back toward economy. As he passed Marcus, he stopped. For what it's worth, what you did was brave. A lot of people would have just accepted it and moved on. I'm tired of accepting it, Marcus said quietly. Peterson nodded and kept walking. Marcus moved toward seat 3A, his seat, but stopped. He looked at Dorothy. You spoke up. She smiled sadly. Someone had to. You could have stayed quiet. Kept your job safe. Dorothy shook her head. Baby, I'm 63 years old. I've been flying for 40 years. I've seen this happen too many times. If I don't speak up now, when will I? Marcus felt something catch in his throat. He nodded at her. Thank you. She patted his arm. You go sit down. I'll get you some water. Marcus sank into seat 3A. The leather was soft. The legroom was generous. It was the seat he'd paid for. The seat he'd earned. But it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like exhaustion. Shannon appeared, looking nervous. Mr. Dalton, can I get you anything? Anything at all. Just water. Thank you. She hurried away. Dennis Porter was still standing in the aisle, looking like he wanted to say something but didn't know what. Finally, he spoke. Sir, again, I'm so sorry. We'll be comping your flight today, and... I don't want my flight comped, Marcus interrupted. I want you to train your staff better. I want you to create a system where Patricia can't do this to anyone else. I want real change, not just a free flight. Dennis swallowed hard. Yes, sir. I'll make sure management hears that. Make sure they do. Marcus leaned back and closed his eyes. Officer Daniels stepped up. Mr. Dalton, I just want to say, what you did took guts. A lot of people in your position would have let it go. Marcus opened his eyes. Officer, can I ask you something? Sure. How many times have you responded to calls like this, where someone gets kicked off a plane or out of a store or away from somewhere they have every right to be? Daniels's jaw tightened. Too many times, sir. Way too many. And how many times does anything actually change? Daniels didn't answer. He didn't have to. Marcus nodded. That's what I thought. The officer hesitated, then said quietly, maybe this time will be different. Maybe, Marcus said. But he didn't sound convinced. Daniels and his partner left the plane. Dennis followed them, talking rapidly into his phone. The other passengers slowly settled back into their seats. The businessman in row 2 opened his laptop again. The woman worried about her daughter's wedding was texting frantically. The teenager in row 24 was still recording. Shannon brought Marcus a bottle of water. Her hands were shaking as she handed it to him. Sir, I'm really sorry. I should have said something at the gate. You were doing your job, Marcus said. My job shouldn't mean staying quiet when something's wrong. She looked like she might cry. Hey. Marcus's voice was gentle. You're right. It shouldn't. But I understand why you did. We all have bills to pay. She nodded, wiping at her eyes, and walked away. Dorothy appeared with a warm towel. Here, honey. You look like you need this. Marcus took it gratefully. The warmth felt good on his face. Grounding. You okay? Dorothy asked quietly. I don't know, Marcus admitted. I just wanted to go home. I know, baby. I know. She squeezed his shoulder and moved on. The cockpit door opened. Paige Lawson stepped out. She walked straight to Marcus's seat and stood there, her face unreadable. Mr. Dalton, she said stiffly, I apologize for what happened. It was unacceptable. Marcus looked up at her. Did you know? Know what? Did you know Patricia had done this before? Did you know she had 17 complaints against her? Paige's jaw worked. I'd heard rumors. Rumors. Marcus let the word hang there. So you knew she was doing this to people, and you just let her keep doing it? I'm a pilot, Mr. Dalton. Gate operations aren't my responsibility. Marcus finished. Is that what you were going to say? Paige's face flushed. I didn't mean. Captain Lawson, let me tell you something. Marcus set down his water bottle. I run a company with 8,000 employees. You know what I tell them on their first day? I tell them that if they see something wrong, something unfair, something that hurts people, they have a responsibility to speak up. Not because it's their job description. Because it's the right thing to do. Paige stood there, silent. You heard rumors, Marcus continued. You knew Patricia was hurting people. And you said nothing. You did nothing. So when you apologize to me, I need you to understand, you're not apologizing for what Patricia did. You're apologizing for what you didn't do. The words hit like bullets. Marcus could see them landing, see Paige's face change. You're right, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. You're absolutely right. I should have said something. I should have reported her. I was a coward. Marcus didn't respond. He didn't need to. Paige took a shaky breath. I'll do better. I promise. Don't promise me, Marcus said. Promise the next person who needs you to stand up for them. She nodded and walked back to the cockpit. Marcus's phone buzzed. Another text from Gerald. Jonathan wants to know if you're okay to continue the flight, or if you'd prefer to take a later one. Marcus typed back, I'm finishing what I started. But tell Jonathan we're not done talking. He figured as much. He's cleared his afternoon. He wants to meet with you when you land in Seattle. Marcus stared out the window. The sun was bright. The tarmac was busy. Life was moving on, like it always did. But something had changed. He could feel it. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The intercom crackled. Paige's voice came through, steadier now. Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize again for the delay. We've been cleared for takeoff. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin. Shannon and Dorothy moved through the aisles, checking seat belts. The plane started moving again. This time, forward. Marcus buckled his seat belt and closed his eyes. He thought about his mama. About what she'd say if she could see this. She'd probably shake her head and laugh. Baby, you always did know how to make a scene. But then she'd get serious. She'd look him in the eye and say, Did you do the right thing? And he'd say, I tried, Mama. I tried. The plane lifted off the ground. Smoothly. Like nothing had happened. But everything had happened. And Marcus Dalton had a feeling this was just the beginning. If you're tired of seeing people get treated unfairly because of how they look, smash that subscribe button now. Only people who think what Patricia did was okay would skip this story. Don't be like Patricia. And comment below, what would you have done in Marcus's situation? Would you have stayed quiet or spoken up? The flight was smooth. Too smooth. Marcus sat in seat 3A, staring out the window at the clouds below. They looked like cotton balls stretched across a blue blanket. Peaceful. Calm. The exact opposite of what was happening in his head. His phone buzzed. Even in airplane mode, his texts were coming through. He'd paid for the in-flight Wi-Fi before all this went down. Thank God for small favors. Gerald, Marcus, Jonathan just sent me something. You need to see this. Call me the second you land. Marcus frowned. He typed back, Can't it wait? Gerald, no. Trust me. This is bigger than Patricia. Bigger than Patricia. What could be bigger than a gate supervisor with 17 discrimination complaints still working for a major airline? Marcus's stomach tightened. He flagged down Dorothy as she passed. Everything okay, honey? She asked. Can I get some coffee? Black, no sugar. Coming right up. She returned a minute later with a steaming cup. Marcus wrapped his hands around it, letting the heat ground him. The businessman in row 2 leaned across the aisle. Hey, man. I just wanted to say, what you did back there. That took guts. Marcus nodded. Thanks. I'm Brad, by the way. Brad Ferguson. He extended his hand. Marcus shook it. Marcus Dalton. I know who you are, Brad said with a slight smile. Dalton Technologies, right? You guys handle cybersecurity for half the hospitals in the Pacific Northwest. Among other things. Brad lowered his voice. Listen, I work in corporate HR for a retail chain. Been doing it for 15 years. And I've seen what you saw today more times than I can count. The difference is, most people don't have the power to do anything about it. You did. That matters. Marcus took a sip of his coffee. It shouldn't take power to be treated like a human being. No, Brad agreed. It shouldn't. But that's the world we live in. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Brad said, You know what the real problem is? It's not just Patricia. People like her don't exist in a vacuum. There's a whole system that protects them. That enables them. That looks the other way. Marcus thought about the 17 complaints. About how Patricia had kept her job year after year, incident after incident. You're right, Marcus said quietly. Brad nodded and went back to his laptop. Marcus pulled out his own laptop from his bag. He opened his email and found the thread with Gerald. There were 3 new emails. All marked urgent. The first was from Jonathan Reeves, the airline CEO. Marcus, I cannot express how horrified I am by what happened this morning. Patricia Vance has been terminated, effective immediately. We are conducting a full investigation into her conduct and the conduct of anyone who enabled her behavior. I would like to personally meet with you when you land in Seattle. I have information you need to see. My deepest apologies, Jonathan Reeves. The second email was from Gerald. Marcus. Jonathan pulled Patricia's personnel file. It's worse than we thought. Way worse. I'm attaching a summary document. Read it before you land. You're going to want to sit down for this. Well, you're already sitting. But you know what I mean. Call me, Gerald. Marcus clicked on the attachment. It was a PDF, 12 pages long. The title made his blood run cold. Personnel File Summary, Patricia Vance, compiled by Airline HR Department. Date, November 26, 2025. Marcus started reading. Complaint number 1, March 2022. Passenger, Jamal Foster, Atlanta to Los Angeles. Issue, Mr. Foster, a black male and Gold Elite member, was removed from his first-class seat and reassigned to economy. Gate supervisor Patricia Vance claimed Mr. Foster's credit card was declined. Mr. Foster provided proof of payment and his credit card company confirmed no decline occurred. Resolution: Mr. Foster received a $200 flight voucher. Patricia Vance received a verbal warning. Marcus's hands tightened on his laptop. Complaint number 2, June 2022. Passenger, Maria Gonzalez, Chicago to Miami. Issue, Ms. Gonzalez, a Latina woman and Platinum Elite member, was told her first-class seat was needed for operational reasons. She was moved to economy. The seat was given to a white male passenger who had boarded standby. Resolution: Ms. Gonzalez received a $300 flight voucher. Patricia Vance received a written warning. Marcus felt his jaw clench. He kept reading. Complaint number 3, September 2022. Passenger, Dr. Kenneth Obi, Boston to Seattle. Issue, Dr. Obi, a black male physician and Gold Elite member, was told he needed to show additional ID to prove he had paid for his first-class seat. He provided his medical license, driver's license, and passport. Patricia Vance insisted his boarding pass must be fraudulent. Security was called. Dr. Obi missed his flight and was late to perform a scheduled surgery. Resolution: Dr. Obi received a $500 flight voucher and a written apology. Patricia Vance received a 3-day suspension without pay. 3 days. 3 days. For making a doctor miss surgery. Marcus scrolled faster. The complaints kept coming. Complaint number 4. A black woman told her service dog wasn't legitimate, even though she had all the proper documentation. On and on and on. 17 complaints. 17 different people. All of them people of color. All of them humiliated, delayed, or downgraded. And Patricia Vance had kept her job through every single one. Marcus reached the end of the document. There was a note at the bottom. Additional note: Patricia Vance is the niece of former Regional VP Thomas Vance, who retired in January 2025. Multiple managers have noted that disciplinary actions against Patricia were often softened or delayed due to her family connection. This protection appears to have ended with her uncle's retirement, but the damage has been done. Marcus closed his laptop. His hands were shaking. Dorothy appeared beside him. "You okay, honey? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," Marcus lied. She didn't believe him. He could tell. But she squeezed his shoulder and moved on. Marcus pulled out his phone and called Gerald, even though the flight attendants had asked everyone to keep calls to a minimum. Gerald picked up on the first ring. "Did you read it?" "I read it. So you see why Jonathan wants to meet in person." Marcus rubbed his face. "Gerald, how did this happen? How did she get away with this for 3 years?" "Her uncle," Gerald said grimly. Thomas Vance was a regional VP. He had pull. Every time someone tried to discipline Patricia, he'd step in. "She's learning. It was a misunderstanding. Let's not ruin her career over one mistake." Except it wasn't one mistake. It was 17. 18, Marcus corrected. Including me. 18, Gerald agreed. And those are just the ones that were formally reported. How many people just accepted it and moved on? How many people didn't have the resources or the energy to fight? Marcus thought about Dr. Obi, about Maria Gonzalez, about Jamal Foster. We need to find them. Find who? All of them. Everyone Patricia did this to. They deserve more than a voucher and an apology. Gerald was quiet for a moment. Jonathan's already working on it. He's bringing in an outside law firm to do a complete review. Not just Patricia's cases, every complaint filed against gate staff in the last 5 years. Good. Marcus looked out the window. The clouds had thinned. He could see land below now, mountains and forests. They were getting close to Seattle. But that's not enough. What do you mean? Gerald, if Patricia could do this for 3 years with nobody stopping her, what does that say about the airline's culture? What does that say about their training, their oversight, their accountability? It says they failed, Gerald said quietly. Exactly. And failing isn't enough. They need to rebuild. From the ground up. Marcus, what are you thinking? Marcus took a deep breath. I'm thinking I'm not just going to meet with Jonathan to accept an apology. I'm going to make sure this never happens again. To anyone. The plane started its descent. Marcus's ears popped. He finished his coffee and handed the cup to Shannon. We'll be landing in about 15 minutes, she said. Can I get you anything else? No, thank you. She hesitated. Mr. Dalton, I just want to say, what happened today changed something. For me. I've been working for this airline for 5 years, and I've seen things that made me uncomfortable. But I never said anything because I thought it wasn't my place. After today, I realize staying silent makes me part of the problem. Marcus looked at her. Really looked at her. She couldn't have been more than 27, 28. Young. Scared. But determined. What's your name? Marcus asked. Your full name. Shannon Ellis. Shannon, I need you to do me a favor. Anything. Write down everything you've seen. Every incident, every time someone was treated unfairly. Dates, names, details. Everything. And send it to me. He pulled out a business card and handed it to her. Shannon stared at the card. You want me to report my own airline? I want you to help make it better. She tucked the card into her pocket. Okay. I will. The plane touched down smoothly. The passengers applauded, something Marcus had never understood. Why do people clap when a plane lands? That's literally the pilot's job. But today, he didn't mind it. Today felt like a small victory. The first of many. The plane taxied to the gate. The seatbelt sign dinged off. Everyone stood up at once, grabbing bags and jostling for position in the aisle. Marcus waited. He was in no hurry. Brad from row 2 stopped beside him. Hey, I meant what I said earlier. If you need any help with whatever you're planning, let me know. He handed Marcus his card. Marcus pocketed it. Thanks. I might take you up on that. The plane emptied slowly. Marcus was one of the last to get off. As he walked up the jetway, he saw a small group waiting at the gate. 2 people in expensive suits, a man and a woman, both looking nervous. A uniformed airline employee with a tablet. And a tall, silver-haired man in his 60s wearing a name tag that read, Jonathan Reeves, CEO. Jonathan stepped forward immediately. Mr. Dalton, I know who you are, Marcus said. Jonathan extended his hand. Marcus shook it. Firm grip. Steady eye contact. The handshake of a man who was used to being in charge. I can't apologize enough, Jonathan began. You're right, Marcus interrupted. You can't. But you can do something about it. Jonathan nodded. That's why I'm here. I'd like to invite you to our corporate office. It's about 15 minutes from here. I have my legal team standing by, and I've pulled every file related to Patricia Vance's employment. I want you to see everything. No filters. No spin. Complete transparency. Marcus studied him. Why? Why what? Why do you care? You're a CEO. You could have just sent me a voucher and moved on. Most companies would. Jonathan's face hardened. Because 17 people, 18 including you, were treated like garbage by someone who worked for me. In my company. On my watch. And I didn't stop it. That's on me, Mr. Dalton. And I don't take that lightly. Marcus believed him. He could see it in the man's eyes. Genuine anger, genuine shame. Okay, Marcus said. Let's talk. The corporate office was sleek and modern. Glass walls, ergonomic chairs, abstract art that probably cost more than most people's cars. Marcus had been in 1,000 offices like this. They all looked the same. They were led to a conference room on the 20th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Seattle skyline. The Space Needle stood in the distance, proud and defiant. Jonathan's legal team was already there. 3 lawyers, 2 HR representatives, and a woman who introduced herself as the head of diversity and inclusion. Marcus almost laughed at that. Diversity and inclusion. Right. They all sat down. Someone offered Marcus coffee. He accepted. Jonathan opened a folder. Mr. Dalton, I want to start by showing you what we've found so far. He slid a document across the table. It was a spreadsheet. Hundreds of rows. Thousands of data points. This, Jonathan said, is every complaint filed against gate staff, flight attendants, and airport personnel in the last 5 years. We've been analyzing it for the past 3 hours since your flight. Marcus scanned the spreadsheet. His stomach dropped. How many? He asked quietly. 473 complaints, said the head of diversity and inclusion, a woman named Rebecca Torres. Of those, 381, over 80%, involve passengers of color. The room went silent. And how many employees were fired? Marcus asked. Rebecca hesitated. 12. 12. Marcus let the word hang there. Out of 473 complaints, only 12 people were fired. Many of the complaints resulted in retraining or written warnings. Retraining doesn't work, Marcus cut her off. You know how I know. Because Patricia Vance was retrained 7 times. She had verbal warnings, written warnings, suspensions. And she kept doing it. Because she knew nothing would really happen to her. No one argued. One of the lawyers, a younger man with round glasses, spoke up. Mr. Dalton, we're prepared to offer you a substantial settlement for what happened today. Name your price. Marcus looked at him. You think this is about money? I just meant. I'm a billionaire, Marcus said flatly. I don't need your money. What I need is for you to fix your company. Jonathan leaned forward. Tell us how. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the city. All those people down there, going about their lives. How many of them had been treated the way he was treated? How many had just accepted it? He turned back to the room. First, Marcus said, you're going to contact every single person Patricia Vance mistreated. Not with a voucher. Not with an apology letter. You're going to call them personally. You're going to listen to their stories. And you're going to compensate them fairly. Jonathan nodded. Done. Second, you're going to implement mandatory bias training for every employee. And I don't mean some corporate video they watch once and forget. I mean real, meaningful training with accountability measures. We can do that, Rebecca said. Third, you're going to create an independent oversight committee. Not HR. Not internal investigations. An outside group that reviews discrimination complaints and has the power to take action. The lawyers looked at each other nervously. That's complicated, one of them said. So is racism, Marcus shot back. Figure it out. Jonathan held up a hand. We'll figure it out. What else? Marcus took a breath. I want you to make me a consultant. Everyone stared at him. Excuse me, Jonathan said. I want an official role. Advisor, consultant, whatever you want to call it. I want access to your operations, your training programs, your complaint systems. I want to help you rebuild this from the inside. Mr. Dalton, one of the lawyers said carefully, that's highly unusual. So is stopping a plane mid-taxi, Marcus said. We're way past usual. Jonathan studied Marcus for a long moment. Then he smiled. Actually smiled. You know what? You're hired. The lawyers looked like they might faint. Jonathan, one of them sputtered, we need to discuss the legal implications. Then discuss them, Jonathan said. But Mr. Dalton is right. We need to do better. And if he's willing to help us, we'd be fools not to take him up on it. Marcus extended his hand. Jonathan shook it. One more thing, Marcus said. Name it. I want to talk to Captain Paige Lawson. Jonathan frowned. The pilot from your flight? Why? Because she admitted she knew about Patricia and said nothing. And I want to know if there are others like her, people who see the problem but stay silent. Jonathan nodded slowly. I'll arrange it. Marcus left the corporate office 2 hours later with a signed consulting agreement, access to the airline's complaint database, and a headache that could kill a horse. His phone had been buzzing non-stop. Messages from friends, colleagues, even reporters who'd somehow gotten his number. One message stood out. It was from Dr. Kenneth Obie, the physician who'd been accused of fraud by Patricia Vance. Mr. Dalton, I saw the news about what happened on your flight. Thank you for speaking up. When Patricia did that to me, I felt invisible. Like my credentials, my character, my humanity didn't matter. I filed a complaint, but nothing changed. Seeing you stand up today reminded me that we're not invisible. We're just tired of being ignored. If there's anything I can do to help make sure this doesn't happen to others, please let me know. Kenneth Obie, M.D. Marcus read the message 3 times. Then he typed back, Dr. Obie, I'd like to talk to you. And to everyone else Patricia hurt. We're going to make this right. I promise. He hit send. His phone rang immediately. Gerald. Marcus, you magnificent maniac. You're actually doing this, aren't you? Doing what? Taking on an entire airline. Marcus smiled. Somebody has to. Well, you've got my full support. And Jonathan's serious, you know. He's already started termination proceedings for 3 other employees who were flagged in the review. Good. Marcus, are you okay? Really? Marcus thought about it. About the morning. About Patricia's face. About the 17, no, 18, complaints. About Dr. Obie missing surgery. About all the people who'd suffered in silence. No, Marcus said honestly. I'm not okay. But I will be. Once we fix this. All right. Get some rest. You've earned it. Marcus hung up and stood on the sidewalk outside the airline's corporate building. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Beautiful. His Uber pulled up. He climbed in. Where to? The driver asked. Marcus gave his home address. Then he leaned back and closed his eyes. He thought about his mama again. About what she used to tell him when he was a kid and someone treated him unfairly. Baby, she'd say, some people are going to look at you and see what they want to see. Your job isn't to change what they see. Your job is to show them who you really are. And if they still don't see it, that's their loss, not yours. But what if it wasn't just their loss? What if their blindness hurt people? What if their blindness ruined lives? Then, Marcus thought, it's my job to help them see. His phone buzzed one more time. A calendar reminder. Meeting with Captain Paige Lawson, tomorrow, 9 a.m. Marcus opened his eyes. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. If you believe people who stay silent about injustice are just as guilty as the people who cause it, hit that subscribe button right now. Only cowards and enablers would scroll past this story. Don't be a coward. Comment below and tell me, have you ever stayed silent when you should have spoken up? What stopped you? Marcus didn't sleep well that night. He tossed and turned in his king-sized bed, his mind replaying the day over and over like a broken record. Patricia's face. The 17 complaints. Dr. Obie missing surgery. That spreadsheet with 473 rows of discrimination at 3 a.m. He gave up on sleep entirely. He made coffee and sat at his kitchen table with his laptop, reading through the complaint files Jonathan had sent him. Each one was a gut punch. Complaint number 47. A black teenager accused of stealing his own first-class ticket. His father was a pilot for a different airline. Complaint number 129. An elderly Asian woman told to go back where she came from when she asked for assistance with her luggage. Complaint number 256. A Hispanic man removed from a flight because another passenger felt uncomfortable sitting next to him. No reason given. No refund issued. Marcus read until the sun came up. By the time he showered and got dressed, he'd gone through 112 complaints. He felt sick. At 8:30 a.m., his phone rang. Jonathan Reeves. Marcus, good morning. I hope you got some rest. Not really. I figured. Listen, Captain Lawson is already here. She showed up an hour early. I think she's nervous. Good, Marcus said. She should be. Marcus, Jonathan's voice got serious. I need to tell you something before you meet with her. Something we discovered last night. Marcus's stomach tightened. What? Paige Lawson filed 3 complaints about Patricia Vance. Over 2 years ago. Marcus stopped walking. He was halfway to his car. What did you say? She reported Patricia 3 times for discriminatory behavior. But her complaints were never investigated. They were buried. Buried by who? Jonathan was quiet for a moment. That's what we need to find out. Marcus arrived at the airline's corporate office at 8:55 a.m. The receptionist, a young man with nervous energy, led him to a smaller conference room on the 15th floor. Not the big one from yesterday. This one was more intimate, more personal. Paige Lawson sat at the table, a cup of coffee in front of her that looked untouched. She'd aged 10 years overnight. Her eyes were red. Her hair, usually neat, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She stood when Marcus entered. Mr. Dalton. Captain Lawson. They shook hands. Hers was cold. Jonathan was there too, along with Rebecca Torres from Diversity and Inclusion. No lawyers this time. Just the 4 of them. They all sat down. The silence was heavy. Finally, Paige spoke. I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you yesterday. Marcus waited. Paige took a shaky breath. I knew about Patricia. I knew what she was doing. And I tried to stop it. She pulled out a folder from her bag. It was thick, stuffed with papers. She slid it across the table to Marcus. These are copies of the complaints I filed. 3 of them. All about Patricia Vance. Marcus opened the folder. The first document was dated May 2023. Internal complaint form submitted by Captain Paige Lawson, Employee ID 47829. I am filing this complaint to report discriminatory behavior by gate supervisor Patricia Vance. On May 14, 2023, I witnessed Ms. Vance remove a black male passenger from his first-class seat without valid cause. The passenger, Mr. James Mitchell, was Platinum Elite status and had paid for his seat in full. When I questioned Ms. Vance about the decision, she told me to mind my own business and that some people need to learn their place. I believe this behavior violates company policy and federal discrimination laws. I am requesting immediate investigation. Marcus looked up. What happened after you filed this? Paige's jaw tightened. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I never heard back from HR. No investigation. No follow-up. It was like I'd sent the complaint into a black hole. So you filed another one, Marcus said, flipping to the second document. I filed 2 more, Paige corrected. August 2023 and January 2024. Different incidents. Same pattern. Patricia would downgrade passengers of color, make up reasons that didn't hold water, and management would look the other way. Rebecca Torres leaned forward. Paige, why didn't you escalate this? Why didn't you go above HR? Paige laughed bitterly. Because I did. After the 3rd complaint went nowhere, I went to my regional manager, Douglas Kramer. Want to know what he told me? No one spoke. He told me that Patricia Vance was protected, and that I should focus on flying planes instead of fighting battles I can't win. Those were his exact words. Marcus felt his blood pressure rising. Protected. By her uncle. That's what I assumed, Paige said. But it was more than that. Jonathan frowned. What do you mean? Paige pulled out another document. This one looked different, like it had been printed from a phone. Last night, after what happened with you, Mr. Dalton, I started digging. I have a friend who works in IT. I asked her to pull something for me. She slid the document to Marcus. It was an email chain. From Douglas Kramer, Regional Manager, to Thomas Vance, Regional VP, date, June 15, 2023. Subject, Patricia Vance complaint. Tom, we received another complaint about your niece. This time from Captain Lawson. Same story, racial discrimination allegations. I've reviewed the footage and honestly, it doesn't look good. What do you want me to do? Doug. Marcus read the response. From Thomas Vance, Regional VP, TO, Douglas Kramer, Regional Manager, date, June 15, 2023. Doug. File it and forget it. Paige Lawson has been a problem for a while. She's filed complaints about other staff members too. She's got a reputation as a troublemaker. Patricia is learning. She's young. Give her time. And Doug. If Lawson keeps pushing this, maybe it's time to have a conversation about her future with the company. Tom. The room went dead silent. Marcus read the email again. And again. He threatened her. He threatened me, Paige confirmed, her voice shaking. After that email, Douglas called me into his office. He told me that if I kept filing complaints, I'd be reassigned to less desirable routes. Maybe even grounded for performance review. He made it very clear that my career was on the line. So you stopped, Rebecca said quietly. So I stopped, Paige whispered. I'm a single mom. I have 2 kids. I can't afford to lose my job. So She wiped at her eyes. I became a coward. I saw Patricia do it again and again, and I said nothing. I told myself it wasn't my fight. That someone else would handle it. That I'd done what I could. Marcus looked at her. Really looked at her. He saw the guilt eating her alive. The shame. The regret. You should have tried harder, he said. Paige nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know. People got hurt because you stayed silent. I know. Dr. Obi missed surgery. Maria Gonzalez was humiliated. 17, 18. People were treated like they didn't matter. And you could have stopped it. I know. Paige's voice cracked. She buried her face in her hands. I know, okay? I know what I did. I know what I didn't do. And I have to live with that for the rest of my life. The room was quiet except for Paige's crying. Marcus felt conflicted. Part of him was angry, furious, even. Paige had seen the problem and chosen her job over doing what was right. But another part of him understood. How many people in America faced that same choice every single day? Speak up and risk everything, or stay quiet and keep food on the table. The system was designed to make people choose silence. Jonathan cleared his throat. Paige, you said Douglas Kramer told you to drop this. Is he still with the company? Paige nodded. He's still regional manager. Chicago hub. Not anymore, Jonathan said coldly. He pulled out his phone and typed rapidly. He's done. So is Thomas Vance's entire network. If they protected Patricia, God knows who else they protected. Rebecca was taking notes furiously. We need to audit every complaint filed in the Chicago region for the last 5 years. Maybe 10. Do it, Jonathan said. Pull everything. I want names, dates, outcomes. I want to know who knew what and when they knew it. Marcus studied Paige. She'd stopped crying but looked completely drained. Hello. Captain Lawson, Marcus said, his voice softer now. I need to ask you something. She looked up. Anything. Are there others? Other employees who tried to speak up and got shut down? Paige hesitated, then nodded. Yes. At least 3 that I know of. 2 flight attendants and another gate agent. They all filed complaints about different issues, harassment, discrimination, safety violations, and they all got the same treatment I did. Ignored or threatened. I want their names, Jonathan said. Paige pulled out her phone. I'll send you their contact information right now. While she did that, Marcus stood and walked to the window. The Seattle skyline looked the same as yesterday. But everything felt different. Heavier. This wasn't just about Patricia Vance anymore. This was about an entire network of people who'd built a system to protect abusers and silence whistleblowers. His phone buzzed. A text from Gerald. Have you seen the news? Marcus frowned. What news? Gerald sent a link. It was a CNN article posted 20 minutes ago. Airline CEO fires multiple employees after discrimination scandal following viral incident. Major carrier launches company-wide investigation. Marcus clicked the article. There was a photo of him, taken yesterday. Someone had filmed it on their phone, and it had gone viral overnight. Hashtag blackceo was trending on Twitter. The article detailed everything. Patricia's termination. The 17 complaints. Jonathan's promise to review all discrimination cases. But what caught Marcus's eye was the quote at the bottom. This isn't just about one employee, said Jonathan Reeves, CEO of the airline. This is about a culture that allowed discrimination to flourish. We are committed to rooting it out at every level. And we've brought on Marcus Dalton, CEO of Dalton Technologies, as a consultant to help us rebuild our policies and practices from the ground up. Marcus showed the article to Jonathan. You moved fast. I told you, I'm serious about this, Jonathan said. I'm not letting this company continue to operate the way it has been. Not on my watch. Paige spoke up. Mr. Dalton, I know I don't deserve to ask this, but what happens to me now? Everyone looked at her. I mean it, Paige continued. I understand if you want me fired. I would have fired me. I should have done more. I should have. You should have, Marcus interrupted. But you didn't. And now you have to decide what kind of person you're going to be moving forward. Paige wiped her eyes. I want to help. However I can. I want to make this right. Marcus thought about it. About Dr. Obi's message. About the 473 complaints. About all the people who'd been hurt. You want to make it right? Marcus asked. Yes. Then you're going to help me find every employee who tried to speak up and got silenced. You're going to help me identify every manager who buried complaints. And you're going to testify about what happened to you, so that other people who are afraid to speak up know they're not alone. Paige nodded immediately. I'll do it. All of it. And, Marcus continued, you're going to personally apologize to every single person on that flight yesterday who had to watch that whole scene play out. Because they deserved better too. I will, Paige promised. Jonathan stood. All right. We have work to do. Rebecca, I want a full list of managers in Patricia's chain of command. Marcus, I'm giving you complete access to our systems, HR files, complaint databases, training records, everything. Paige, you're on paid leave until we complete our investigation, but I want you available for interviews. Everyone nodded. As they filed out of the conference room, Paige stopped Marcus in the hallway. Mr. Dalton, I know saying sorry isn't enough. But I am. I'm so sorry. For what happened to you, and for what I allowed to happen to everyone else. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Captain Lawson, I don't need your apology. I need your action. Prove to me that you meant what you said in there. Prove it by being the person who stands up next time, no matter what it costs you. I will, Paige said. I promise. Marcus nodded and walked away. The rest of the day was a blur. Marcus spent 6 hours in a conference room with Rebecca and her team, reviewing complaint files. They identified 14 employees who'd filed reports that were mysteriously lost or unsubstantiated without proper investigation. They found a pattern. Most of the buried complaints came from the same 3 hubs, Chicago, Atlanta, and Dallas. And they all had one thing in common. They'd been reviewed by managers who reported directly to Thomas Vance or his associates. It was a network. A good old boys club. A system designed to protect its own. By 6 p.m., Marcus's head was pounding. He'd read so many stories of people being mistreated that they all started to blur together. But each one mattered. Each one was a person who'd been hurt. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. "Hello, Mr. Dalton. This is Maria Gonzalez. You probably don't remember me, but—" "I remember," Marcus said immediately. "Complaint number 2. Patricia Vance took your seat in June 2022. There was a pause. You read my complaint?" "I read all of them. Every single one." Maria's voice cracked. "I thought nobody cared. I filed that complaint and never heard anything. I thought they just threw it away." "They did," Marcus said honestly. "But I'm not throwing it away. None of them. I want to hear your story, Maria. And I want to make sure it never happens to anyone else." They talked for 45 minutes. Maria told him about the humiliation she felt, about how she'd stopped flying with that airline entirely, about how she still got anxious in airports. When they hung up, Marcus had 7 more voicemails. All from people who'd been on Patricia's list. All of them wanting to tell their stories. He called them back. Every single one. By the time he left the office at 10 p.m., he'd spoken to 11 of the 17 people Patricia had targeted. Each conversation made him angrier. And more determined. He got in his car and just sat there for a minute, staring at the dashboard. His phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Kenneth Obi. "Mr. Dalton, thank you for calling me today. For 3 years, I thought I was crazy. I thought maybe I'd overreacted. Talking to you made me realize I wasn't wrong to be angry. I wasn't wrong to expect better. Thank you for seeing us." Marcus felt something break inside his chest. Not in a bad way. In the way that ice breaks when it starts to thaw. He typed back, "Dr. Obi, you were never wrong. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows it." He started his car and drove home. But he didn't feel like going inside. Not yet. So he drove to his mama's house instead. His mama lived in a small house in the Rainier Valley neighborhood. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a front porch with a swing that creaked. She'd lived there for 30 years and refused to move, even when Marcus offered to buy her something bigger. "Baby, why would I leave?" she'd say. "This house has good bones. And all my memories." Marcus let himself in with his key. His mama was in the living room, watching Jeopardy and eating popcorn. "Marcus!" She jumped up and hugged him. She was small, barely 5'2", but she hugged like she was trying to squeeze the sadness out of him. "Baby, I saw the news. Are you okay?" "I'm okay, Mama." She pulled back and looked at him. Really looked at him. The way only mothers can. "No, you're not. Sit down. I'll make you some tea." 10 minutes later, they were sitting on the couch together. Marcus told her everything. About Patricia. About the complaints. About Paige and Douglas and Thomas Vance. About the system that protected abusers and silenced victims. His mama listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "You remember when you were 10 and that boy at school kept calling you names?" Marcus nodded. "Ricky Thompson. You came home crying every day for a week. And you asked me why some people were so mean. You remember what I told you? You said some people are scared. And scared people do ugly things." "That's right." His mama patted his hand. Patricia was scared. Scared that if she treated everyone fairly, she'd lose her power. So she used that power to hurt people who couldn't fight back. And all those managers who protected her, they were scared too. Scared of losing their jobs, their status, their comfortable lives. "So what do we do about scared people, Mama?" She smiled. "We show them there's nothing to be scared of. We show them that doing the right thing doesn't mean losing everything. It means gaining your soul back." Marcus leaned his head on her shoulder, like he used to when he was a kid. "I don't know if I can fix this, Mama. It's so big. So broken. Baby, you can't fix everything. But you can fix something. And sometimes, fixing something is enough to start a change." They sat there for a while, watching Jeopardy! Alex Trebek asked questions. Contestants buzzed in. The world kept spinning. Finally, Marcus stood up. "I should go. Got another long day tomorrow." His mama walked him to the door. "Marcus." "Yeah, Mama." "I'm proud of you. Your daddy would be too." Marcus's throat tightened. His father had died when Marcus was 15. Heart attack. Gone before Marcus could say goodbye. "Thanks, Mama." He drove home. This time, he went inside. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, something he rarely did, and sat in his home office, staring at his computer screen. Tomorrow, he'd meet with the flight attendants and gate agent who'd been silenced. Tomorrow, he'd start building the oversight committee. Tomorrow, he'd keep fighting. But tonight, he just needed to sit with it. With the anger. With the sadness. With the weight of knowing how many people had been hurt. His phone buzzed one more time. Jonathan Reeves. "Marcus, we've identified 8 more employees who were involved in burying complaints. Termination paperwork is being drawn up now. This rabbit hole goes deeper than we thought. But we're going to dig all the way to the bottom." Marcus typed back, "Good. Because I'm not stopping until we do." He hit send and closed his eyes. Outside, Seattle slept. But Marcus was wide awake. And he had work to do. If you think people like Douglas Kramer and Thomas Vance deserve to lose their jobs for protecting discrimination, subscribe right now. Only people who support corruption would keep scrolling. Don't be corrupt. And comment, what would you do if your boss told you to stay quiet about something wrong? Would you risk your job to do what's right? 3 weeks later, Marcus Dalton stood in front of 847 airline employees in a conference center in downtown Seattle. The room was packed. Flight attendants, gate agents, pilots, mechanics, customer service reps, security personnel. People from every corner of the airline had shown up for this mandatory meeting. And they all looked nervous. Marcus understood why. In the past 3 weeks, 23 employees had been fired. Not just Patricia Vance. Not just Douglas Kramer. An entire network of managers, supervisors, and executives who'd spent years protecting discriminatory behavior and silencing whistleblowers. The airline was in chaos. The news media was having a field day. Lawsuits were being filed. Stock prices had dropped. Passengers were canceling flights. But Marcus wasn't here to make people feel comfortable. He was here to burn the old system to the ground and build something better from the ashes. Jonathan Reeves stood at the podium first. He looked tired, like he'd aged 5 years in 3 weeks. Probably because he had. "Thank you all for being here," Jonathan began. His voice echoed through the room. "I know the last few weeks have been difficult, confusing, maybe even scary for some of you. But we're here today because this company that I've led for 7 years, failed. We failed our passengers. We failed our employees who tried to speak up. And we failed the basic principles of human decency." A few people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Jonathan continued. "Today, we're introducing new policies, new training, and new accountability measures. But more importantly, we're introducing you to the man who's going to help us make sure we never fail like this again." Marcus Dalton. Scattered applause. Not enthusiastic. More like mandatory. Marcus stepped up to the podium. He looked out at the sea of faces. Some looked curious. Some looked hostile. Some just looked exhausted. He didn't use notes. He didn't need them. "My name is Marcus Dalton," he began. 3 weeks ago, I was denied a first-class seat I'd paid for. When I questioned why, I was threatened with removal from the flight. And when I stood up for myself, I found out I wasn't the first person this had happened to. I was the 18th. The room was silent. "I could have taken a settlement and walked away," Marcus continued. "I could have accepted an apology and moved on with my life. But I didn't. You know why?" No one answered. "Because this isn't about me. It's about every single person who's been treated like they don't belong in a space they've earned the right to be in. It's about the doctor who missed surgery. The teenager accused of stealing his own ticket. The elderly woman told to go back where she came from. It's about the system that allowed this to happen over and over and over again." A woman in the 3rd row, a flight attendant with gray hair, raised her hand. "Mr. Dalton, with all due respect, some of us tried to report these problems. We filed complaints. We spoke up. And we got punished for it. Where were you then? Fair question. You're right, Marcus said. I wasn't there. I didn't know this was happening. But I know now. And I'm here now. And I'm not leaving until we fix it. Another hand went up. A young gate agent with glasses. How do we know this isn't just PR? How do we know that once the media attention dies down, everything won't just go back to the way it was? Marcus looked at Jonathan. Mr. Reeves, would you like to answer that? Jonathan stepped forward. Because I'm putting my job on the line. If we don't meet the benchmarks we're setting today, if discrimination complaints aren't investigated within 48 hours, if bias training isn't completed by every employee within 6 months, if our new oversight committee doesn't have full autonomy, then I'll resign. That's my promise to you. The room erupted in whispers. Marcus held up a hand. Here's what's going to change. Starting today. He clicked a button on the remote. A presentation appeared on the screens around the room. New policy number 1. Independent Oversight Committee. Every discrimination complaint will be reviewed by an independent committee, Marcus explained. Not HR. Not management. An outside group made up of civil rights attorneys, diversity experts, and former employees who've experienced discrimination. They'll have the power to investigate, recommend terminations, and enforce policy changes. New policy number 2. Mandatory bias training. Every employee, from the CEO down to part-time staff, will complete quarterly bias training. Not some boring video you click through. Real training with role-playing scenarios, guest speakers, and accountability measures. If you don't complete it, you don't keep your job. New policy number 3. Whistleblower protection. Anyone who reports discrimination or misconduct will be protected. Period. If you face retaliation, the person who retaliated against you will be immediately terminated. No exceptions. New policy number 4. Transparent complaint tracking. Every complaint filed will be tracked in a public database. Anonymous, but trackable. You'll be able to see how many complaints were filed, how many were investigated, and what the outcomes were. No more burying reports. No more black holes. New policy number 5. Passenger Bill of Rights. We're implementing a Passenger Bill of Rights. If you're wrongfully downgraded, removed, or discriminated against, you'll receive automatic compensation. Not a voucher, but real money. And you'll have direct access to the Oversight Committee to file a complaint. Marcus paused. Questions. Hands shot up everywhere. The pilot in the back row stood. Mr. Dalton, this all sounds great. But what about the employees who didn't do anything wrong? We're being treated like we're all guilty. You're not all guilty, Marcus said. But you're all responsible. There's a difference. If you saw something wrong and said nothing, you're responsible. If you heard rumors and didn't report them, you're responsible. Silence isn't neutrality. It's complicity. The pilot sat down, jaw tight. Another woman stood, young, maybe mid-20s. A flight attendant. Marcus recognized her. Shannon Ellis. The one from his flight. Mr. Dalton, I sent you that information you asked for. About incidents I'd witnessed. And I know some people here think I'm a snitch. But I don't care. Her voice was shaking but strong. I'm tired of pretending everything's fine when it's not. I'm tired of watching people get hurt and doing nothing. A few people in the room glared at her. But more people nodded. Marcus smiled. Thank you, Shannon. That took courage. Shannon sat down, her face red but her head high. An older man stood. He wore a pilot's uniform, and his name tag read, Captain James Holland. He looked like he'd been flying since the Wright brothers. Mr. Dalton, I've been with this airline for 32 years. I've seen a lot of changes. Some good, some bad. But I've never seen anything like this. He paused. And I think it's about damn time. The room erupted in applause. Real applause this time. Captain Holland continued. I'm not proud of it, but I stayed silent when I should have spoken up. I told myself it wasn't my problem. That someone else would handle it. But Captain Lawson was right. Staying silent made me part of the problem. So I want to say, publicly, that I support these changes. And I'll do better. More applause. Marcus felt something shift in the room. Like a dam breaking. Like people were finally ready to let the truth out. One by one, employees stood up and shared their stories. A gate agent who'd been told to prioritize certain passengers based on how they looked. A flight attendant who'd been written up for defending a Muslim passenger. A customer service rep who'd filed 6 complaints about discriminatory behavior and never heard back. A mechanic who'd watched a black pilot get questioned about his credentials by security, even though his uniform clearly showed his rank. By the time they finished, 2 hours had passed. Marcus's throat was dry. His heart was heavy. But he also felt something he hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Thank you, Marcus said. All of you. For your honesty. For your courage. This is how we start to heal. By telling the truth. By facing what we've done and what we've allowed to happen. And by committing to do better. Jonathan stepped forward again. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll break into smaller groups for training sessions. This is mandatory. If you leave now, don't bother coming back. People stood and stretched. Some headed for the coffee station. Others huddled in groups, whispering. Marcus walked off the stage and was immediately surrounded by employees wanting to talk to him. Thank him. Question him. Challenge him. He answered every question. Shook every hand. Listened to every story. An hour later, his phone buzzed. Gerald. Marcus, you need to call me. It's urgent. Marcus excused himself and stepped into a quiet hallway. He dialed Gerald. Gerald picked up on the first ring. Marcus, we have a problem. What kind of problem? The kind that might blow up everything we've built. Marcus's stomach dropped. Talk to me. Do you remember Thomas Vance? Patricia's uncle, the former regional VP. Of course. He's threatening to sue. Claims wrongful termination. Says we defamed him. But that's not the problem. Then what is? Gerald took a deep breath. He has emails. Between himself and someone higher up. Someone who knew about the discrimination complaints and specifically told him to bury them. Marcus felt his blood run cold. Who? Alan Pritchard. The name hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. Alan Pritchard was on the airline's board of directors. He'd been with the company for 15 years. He was one of the most powerful people in the entire organization. Tell me you're joking, Marcus said. I wish I was. Thomas Vance's lawyer sent Jonathan the emails an hour ago. They're bad, Marcus. Really bad. How bad? Let sleeping dogs lie bad. Some complaints aren't worth investigating bad. We can't afford the publicity bad. Marcus closed his eyes. Does Jonathan know? He's the one who told me to call you. He wants to meet. Tonight. His office. He says this changes everything. Marcus checked his watch. 4:30 p.m. I'll be there in an hour. He hung up and stood there for a moment, trying to process what he'd just heard. They'd fired 23 people. They'd overhauled the entire system. They'd made promises to 847 employees and thousands of passengers. And now they'd just discovered that the rot went even deeper than they thought. All the way to the board of directors. Marcus arrived at Jonathan's office at 5:45 p.m. The sun was setting over Seattle, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Beautiful. Almost too beautiful for the conversation they were about to have. Jonathan was there, along with his head lawyer, a woman named Patricia Chen, no relation to Patricia Vance, thank God. Rebecca Torres was there too. And Gerald, who'd driven straight from his office. They all looked grim. Jonathan slid a folder across the table to Marcus. Read these. Marcus opened it. The emails were printed out, highlighted in yellow. From Alan Pritchard, board member, T.O., Thomas Vance, regional VP, date, August 18, 2023. Subject, complaint issues. Tom, I've reviewed the latest batch of discrimination complaints from your region. My advice, let sleeping dogs lie. Most of these passengers won't pursue legal action. The few who do, we can settle quietly. Investigating every complaint would open us up to more liability, not less. Keep Patricia in her role. She's effective at managing difficult passengers, even if her methods are unconventional. We need people who aren't afraid to make tough calls. Alan. Marcus felt sick. He read the next email. From Thomas Vance, Regional VP, to Alan Pritchard, Board Member, date, September 3, 2023. Subject, Captain Lawson problem. Alan. Captain Lawson filed another complaint about Patricia. She's becoming a real headache. I've talked to Douglas about handling it, but Lawson won't let it go. Any suggestions? Tom from Alan Pritchard, Board Member, TO, Thomas Vance, Regional VP, date, September 3, 2023. Tom. Lawson's been a problem before. She filed complaints about safety violations last year that cost us a fortune in audits. Maybe it's time to consider whether she's a good fit for the company long-term. A strategic reassignment to less desirable routes might convince her to move on. In the meantime, bury her complaints. If she pushes back, we'll deal with it then. Alan. Marcus looked up. He tried to force Paige out. He tried to force out anyone who spoke up, Patricia Chen said. We found 12 more emails like this. All from Alan Pritchard. All telling managers to ignore complaints, threaten whistleblowers, or handle problems quietly. How high does this go? Marcus asked. Jonathan rubbed his face. Right now. Just Pritchard. But he's been on the board for 15 years. If he's been doing this the whole time, then there could be hundreds of buried complaints, Rebecca finished. The room went silent. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. The city lights were starting to come on. People down there were going about their lives, completely unaware that a major airline had been systematically covering up discrimination for over a decade. We have to go public, Marcus said. Everyone looked at him. Marcus, if we go public with this, the fallout will be massive, Patricia Chen warned. Lawsuits, media, stock prices. This could sink the company. Then it sinks, Marcus said flatly. I'm not covering this up. That's exactly what Pritchard did. That's exactly what got us here. Marcus, think about the employees, Jonathan said. 847 people who depend on this airline for their livelihood. If we go under, they lose everything. And if we don't tell the truth, Marcus countered, then we're no better than Pritchard. We're just protecting the system instead of the people it hurt. Gerald spoke up. Marcus is right. We have to tell the truth. But we need to do it strategically. We control the narrative. We announce it ourselves before Thomas Vance's lawyer does. Jonathan nodded slowly. Okay. We call a press conference. Tomorrow morning. We release everything, the emails, the complaint files, the full scope of what we found. And we announce that Alan Pritchard is being removed from the board and that we're launching a complete investigation into his tenure. He'll sue, Patricia Chen said. Let him, Jonathan said. I'm done protecting people who don't deserve it. The press conference was held at 9 a.m. the next morning in the airline's main auditorium. Every major news outlet was there. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, NPR, the Seattle Times, the New York Times, even international press. Marcus stood backstage with Jonathan, watching the room fill up with reporters. You ready for this? Jonathan asked. No, Marcus admitted. But we're doing it anyway. They walked out together. Camera flashes exploded like fireworks. Reporters shouted questions before they even reached the podium. Jonathan held up a hand. Please. Let me make a statement first. Then we'll take questions. The room quieted. Jonathan took a deep breath. 3 weeks ago, Marcus Dalton was discriminated against on one of our flights. That incident led to the discovery of systemic discrimination within our company. We've since identified 473 formal complaints of discriminatory behavior over the past 5 years, and we believe there are many more that were never formally reported. Reporters scribbled furiously. Yesterday, Jonathan continued, we learned that a member of our board of directors, Alan Pritchard, actively worked to bury these complaints and retaliate against employees who spoke up. We have emails proving that Mr. Pritchard instructed managers to ignore discrimination complaints, threaten whistleblowers, and prioritize the company's reputation over passenger and employee welfare. The room erupted. When did you know about this? Is Pritchard still on the board? Are you facing criminal charges? Jonathan waited for silence. Mr. Pritchard has been removed from the board effective immediately. We are cooperating fully with federal investigators. And we are committed to making this right for every single person who was harmed. He stepped aside. Marcus Dalton will now take questions. Marcus stepped up to the microphone. A reporter from CNN stood. Mr. Dalton, some people are saying you're overreacting. That isolated incidents of discrimination happen at every company. What do you say to that? Marcus looked directly at the camera. I say those people are part of the problem. 473 incidents isn't isolated. It's systemic. And if your response to systemic discrimination is, it happens everywhere, then you're telling victims that their pain doesn't matter. That's not acceptable. Another reporter. Do you think the airline can recover from this? I hope so, Marcus said honestly. Because thousands of employees depend on it. But recovery doesn't mean going back to the way things were. It means building something better. A reporter from Fox stood. Mr. Dalton, you've spent 3 weeks investigating this company. In your opinion, is this fixable? Marcus paused. He thought about Patricia Vance. About the 18 people she'd hurt. About Douglas Kramer and Thomas Vance and Alan Pritchard. About the system that had protected them for years. Yes, Marcus said finally. It's fixable. But only if we're willing to tear down the old system and rebuild from scratch. Only if we're willing to face uncomfortable truths. Only if we're willing to put people before profits. And if the airline isn't willing to do that, the reporter pressed. Marcus looked at Jonathan. Then back at the cameras. Then I'll build a better airline myself. The room went silent. Even Jonathan looked shocked. Marcus hadn't planned to say that. But as soon as the words left his mouth, he knew they were true. Are you saying you're starting your own airline? A reporter asked. I'm saying that if this company, if any company, refuses to treat people with basic dignity and respect, then yes. I'll create an alternative. I have the resources. I have the network. And I have 473 reasons to do it. Jonathan leaned toward the microphone. That won't be necessary. We're committed to making these changes. Good, Marcus said. Then prove it. The press conference lasted 2 more hours. By the time it ended, Marcus's face was on every news channel in America. His phone was blowing up. Messages from friends. From business partners. From strangers thanking him. From other strangers calling him every name in the book. But one message stood out. It was from Dr. Kenneth Obie. Mr. Dalton, I just watched the press conference. You said you'd build a better airline if they didn't fix this one. I'm a doctor, not a businessman. But if you need investors, I'm in. Whatever it takes to make sure what happened to us never happens to anyone else. Marcus stared at the message. Then he looked at the other texts rolling in. Maria Gonzalez, if you start an airline, I'll be your first passenger. Captain James Holland, I'm retiring in 6 months. But if you need a pilot for a better airline, call me. Shannon Ellis, I'll quit this job tomorrow if it means working for a company that actually cares about people. One message after another. Dozens of them. People ready to burn bridges and build something new. Marcus called Gerald. Did you see the press conference? Marcus asked. I saw it. You just threatened to start an airline on live television. I didn't threaten. I made a promise. Gerald laughed. You're serious. As a heart attack. Marcus, do you have any idea how hard it is to start an airline? The regulations, the capital, the logistics. I built a billion-dollar tech company from my garage, Marcus interrupted. I think I can figure it out. Gerald was quiet for a moment. You know what? You're right. If anyone can do it, you can. And I'll help you. Marcus smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. 6 months later, Marcus stood in a hangar at Boeing Field, looking at a brand-new airplane. It was beautiful, sleek, modern, and painted with the logo of his new airline, Horizon Airways. Everyone belongs here, that was the company motto. The plane had 180 seats. No first class. No economy. Just one cabin with comfortable seats, generous legroom, and equal treatment for everyone. The flight attendants wore uniforms designed by employees. The pilots had input on safety protocols. Every employee had gone through intensive bias training, not the corporate checkbox kind, but real training with community leaders and civil rights experts. And every complaint filed would be reviewed by an independent committee within 24 hours. The airline wasn't big. Not yet. They had 5 planes and 12 routes. But it was growing. Dr. Obi had invested. So had Maria Gonzalez. So had dozens of other people who'd been hurt by the old system and wanted to build something better. Captain Paige Lawson was one of their pilots. She'd left her old airline the day Marcus's company launched. Said she was done working for a company that only changed when forced to. Shannon Ellis was their head of customer service. Dorothy, the flight attendant who'd spoken up on Marcus's flight, had come out of retirement to help with training. Even Brad Ferguson, the HR guy for Marcus's original flight, had joined the team as Director of Employee Relations. They were small. They were scrappy. They were making mistakes and learning as they went. But they were trying. And that mattered. The old airline survived. Barely. Jonathan Reeves had kept his promise. The oversight committee was in place. The bias training was mandatory. The complaint system was transparent. But they'd lost millions of customers. Their reputation was in tatters. Stock prices had dropped 40%. Alan Pritchard was facing federal charges for obstruction of justice. Thomas Vance was in early retirement, his pension stripped. Douglas Kramer was blacklisted from every major airline in the country. Patricia Vance. Marcus didn't know what happened to Patricia. He'd heard she moved to Florida. He hoped she'd learn something. But he doubted it. Some people never change. Marcus's phone rang. It was his mama. "Baby, I just saw the news. Your airline's first flight takes off today." "In about an hour," Marcus confirmed. "Seattle to Los Angeles." "I'm so proud of you." "Thanks, Mama. Your daddy would be proud too. You know that, right?" Marcus felt his throat tighten. "I hope so. I know so. You saw something wrong, and you didn't just complain about it. You fixed it. That's who you are, Marcus. That's who you've always been." They talked for a few more minutes before Marcus had to go. The flight attendants were boarding early for a final briefing. The pilots were doing their pre-flight check. The passengers were starting to arrive. Marcus stood at the gate and watched them. A black teenager with his first-class ticket. Well, they didn't call it first class, but he'd paid for priority boarding. He walked on with his head high. An elderly Muslim woman with her family. The flight attendant greeted her in Arabic, made her feel welcome. A Hispanic businessman who'd flown with the old airline and been downgraded 3 times. He told Marcus, "I never thought I'd feel safe flying again." "Thank you." A white couple with their adopted black son. The mother whispered to Marcus, "We stopped flying with our old airline because of how they treated our son. This means everything." One by one, they boarded. All different. All equal. All welcome. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from Jonathan Reeves. "Marcus, I just wanted to say, what you've built is remarkable. I'm sorry we couldn't be that company. But I'm glad you showed us what we should have been. Good luck today." Marcus typed back, "Thanks, Jonathan. Keep pushing. The work isn't done." "I know. We're trying. Really trying." Marcus believed him. Sort of. The plane took off at 2 p.m. Pacific Time. Marcus wasn't on it. He had work to do. Meetings with investors. Calls with regulators. Plans to expand to 10 more cities by the end of the year. But he watched it take off from the window of his office. Watched it climb into the sky. watched it disappear into the clouds. And he thought about all the people who'd said it couldn't be done. That discrimination was just how things were. That one person couldn't change a broken system. That fighting back would cost too much. They'd been wrong. Marcus had stopped a plane, fired a pilot, exposed a conspiracy that went all the way to the top. And when the old system refused to change fast enough, he'd built a new one. Not because he was special, but because he refused to accept that things had to stay broken. His phone rang again. Unknown number, he answered. "Hello, Mr. Dalton. My name is Jennifer Park. I'm a Korean-American woman, and yesterday I was removed from my first-class seat on United Airlines. They said it was a computer error, but I know it wasn't. I filed a complaint, but I don't think anyone's listening. I saw what you did. Can you help me?" Marcus closed his eyes. The work wasn't done. It was never done. "Yes," Marcus said. "Tell me what happened." And he listened. Because that's what change looks like. One person at a time. One flight at a time. One moment of courage at a time. Until the whole damn system transforms.